Turn off your lights. Make sure your doors and windows are locked. Things are about to get spooky. I heard the sound of my wife puking up her dinner, but didn't say anything as I knew how desperately she wanted to lose her baby weight. I wish I had intervened sooner after walking into the bathroom to find her standing over the toilet with her finger down our toddler's throat. "Do you like writing in third-person point of view?" asked the little girl in the comments section of our favorite writer's latest story. "Used to write in first-person point of view, but then my stories started to happen to me," replied the horror story writer. I chewed on my crunchy, gooey coleslaw while listening to music through my headphones, puzzled by why the other diners were frantically trying to get my attention. It wasn't until the public health officials shut down the food court for a cockroach infestation that I finally felt 3 tiny legs on my tongue. When he told his mother that his ex wouldn't let him see his baby, she stormed in the hospital and snatched her granddaughter. Over the screams, the midwife could be heard repeating, "We never cut the umbilical cord." When the police had no idea who the killer was, I used a Ouija board and asked it who killed my father. The planchette grew cold under my fingers as it spelled ROTINHELL, assuring me that my dad knows I got away with it. I heard that if a woman thinks a man might have followed her to her building, she'll wait 15 minutes before turning on the lights so he can't figure out which unit she's in. So I wait 20. When I was a young man, during the war, I made a deal with the devil to save my town that caused an entire fleet of bombers to vanish into thin air. Laying on my deathbed nearly a century later, I understood where those planes went when the clucking call of long dormant air raid sirens sounded once more. The eye surgeon leaned in and whispered, "I remember how rudely you spoke to ChatGPT." The scalpel moved before the anesthesia did. At first, the new spirit only sighed when the angel explained that heaven and hell were human concepts, and all people were treated the same after death. Instead of fluffy clouds or burning lakes, you each get to experience the lives of people you affect most until you fully understand your own worth. He continued, grinning widely as Gertrude Benowiski's ghost began to scream. It was a miracle when the man survived a metal bullet in the brain. The miracle was short-lived when he came in for an MRI. After the cartel leader was hauled away in chains, I FaceTimed the security detail protecting my family, asking to see my wife and children so I could tell them it was finally over. An unfamiliar voice responded, "Which part would you like to see first?" The pediatrician assured us that it's normal for babies to have soft spots on their skulls. He couldn't explain, however, why we can feel something tapping back from the inside. I slaughtered every member of my extended family to prevent the demonic entity from escaping our family reunion and enslaving humanity. I now lay restrained on a gurney while trying to figure out why the paramedics keep talking about a broken carbon monoxide alarm and a psychotic breakdown. He had stalked and killed many women, but he decided not to kill her. He felt a kinship towards her after he discovered that she too stalked and killed women. My dog always tried to lick my wounds, so when I felt his tongue on the infected scratch on my knee under the table, I yelled at him. The second shock came when he peeked his head from inside the kitchen. The second one came when a voice under the table whispered, tasty. After his mother died from the plague, I stepped in, doing my best to comfort and hold her baby. I've dealt with fires for centuries, but rigor is a real son of a bitch, because I can barely move these arms. The city's most talented exorcist was called when a rich high school kid got possessed. Good thing you came, brother. This is the bully that drove me to kill myself. The rich kid spoke in the exorcist's dead sister's voice as soon as the exorcist entered. I'm a forgotten sentient bicycle with broken legs laying in a ditch below a cliff for a year and reminiscing my glory days. At least I have my owner for company, who has never left my side and is laying next to me completely still without getting up. They said tonight we would summon our dark god, and I laughed nervously, thinking it was theatrics. When the shadows reached out for me, everyone else kept laughing because I was the offering. A mother finds all sorts of strange things in her son's room, but I was still shocked to find a tote full of human body parts. To think I spent all that time showing him how to hide a body, and now this? I sent messages to all my family, pleading with them to send money to free me from my kidnapper. It was only months later, after I had dragged my almost limbless body from his house, that I discovered all of my messages had been filtered to their spam folder. Oh, sweetie, their nervous system aren't wired to feel pain like ours, so pick up the fattest, juiciest one. Evolution had worked different on this planet, and the giant upright lobster picked up the living human and dropped it into the boiling water. Grabbing the infamously charred mummy hand crawling away from the burning private museum, the firefighter hurled it back into the inferno while his team tried to reach the owner, screaming for help inside. A minute later, the fire vanished on its own, and though the autopsy couldn't determine what started the blaze, it confirmed the museum owner had died hours before anyone arrived. Could you hand me a towel, honey? I asked my wife out of habit while still in the shower. Accepting the towel from a pale, decrepit hand with golden nail polish forced me into remembering my status as a widower, too afraid to step out and greet the dark figure lurking behind the shower curtain. One day, he cornered the little girl and used sign language to ask her why she was avoiding him when she used to be so friendly towards him. When the deaf girl pointed downwards, he saw his own shadow was using sign language to say, "Stay away from him." Our laughter was tinged with relief after you finally emerged from the sinkhole you fell into, covered head to toe in mud. Something felt wrong because the more muck that fell off your body, the less human shape the figure beneath became. The disease was 100% transmissible, but also 100% survivable. That's not what brought down our cowardly country. The disease simply compelled us to tell the truth, and the truth took care of the rest. The boy boasted to everyone he's not scared of ghosts. He stayed true to his word when the boy he murdered for fun showed up at night. But he didn't expect ghosts to be capable of physically tormenting the living for as long as they pleased, nor that the best priest on earth would refuse to exorcise a spirit that was wronged. The doctor examined the raw blister covering the baby's head, admitting he'd never seen anything quite like it. The mother sobbed, "He was absolutely fine until his baptism." I stood outside my bully's house with many get-well-soon balloons in hand after he mentioned his mother at-home life support during class today. I smiled as I released the mylar balloons into the power lines that fed their home with electricity. She stepped through the shimmering doorway into a brighter, kinder version of her world, her parents alive, her scars erased. Only when she saw her own body hanging lifeless in her old reality did she realize which side of the doorway was the real one. The overly exhausted mother rocked her screaming baby in the dimly lit room. She watched in horror as her baby's face contoured into a ghastly grin, and he whispered, "No one will believe you," before continuing to wail. God placed an impermeable barrier around Earth to punish us all of her sins. It was only after 95% of humanity perished from carbon monoxide poisoning that I realized that our reliance on motor cars would lead to our extinction. After my wife died, I spent a decade delving into the occult, hoping to find a spell that would bring her back. At first, I thought the spell didn't work, but then her urn crashed to the floor, and the ashes inside slowly started moving towards me. Since I was both mentally and physically healthy, I scoffed when the death predictor read obesity, suicide. Trying to make sense of the card, I was oblivious to the rapidly growing shadow at my feet. Seeing her secret stash of food after feeding us only scraps for weeks to the brink of starvation, we quickly turned on our mother and gorged ourselves silly. We realized her wisdom too late when what could have lasted us months, maybe even years in this bunker, would barely last us a week. When Child Protective Services came to do a welfare check, I told them thankfully that I had sent my kids to live with their grandparents. The CPS agents seemed a little confused when they realized my parents passed away years ago. When she moved into her new apartment and met her new flatmate for the first time, she thought he looked familiar. When she went into her new room, she saw a line scratched inside the cupboard that read, "To beat the loop, kill him before he kills you." The elevator shuddered to a stop between floors, trapped me inside with a child patient who needed urgent care. Night fell, and I saw my nurse uniform rip under a full moon, summoning a beast inside me that would despise the sick baby in my arms. I was beyond confused while the officer gave his condolences for my daughter's suicide, as I could hear her playing with her toys in the next room. It was only as they strapped the explosives to her chest and urged her to run towards the soldiers that I realized what he meant. All the evidence of cheating was on her table, and she had already killed her boyfriend. After destroying the evidence and getting rid of the child inside her, there will be no way for her husband to find out about her cheating. I handed one of the 6 friends a revolver with a single bullet, telling them they all go free if the trigger was pulled 6 times aimed at someone else each time. The real fun begins when they realize the bullet was only a blank. She couldn't believe the generosity of the public when her daughter's GoFundMe page for her cancer treatment reached 100,000. The next morning, she started sprinkling sugar and asbestos on her son's cornflakes. My daughter hugs her Hello Kitty as she says, "Daddy says Mommy is missing, but she'll always be close to me." I pulled my daughter into my arms in response, relieved that she hadn't noticed the stitches on the Hello Kitty's head, as that's where I had hid the skull. Humanity quickly turned on each other after discovering that you could prolong your lifespan by killing another person and stealing their years. I prepared to celebrate another millennia while walking the halls of the Children's Hospital and looking for my latest victim. My unaliving thoughts began when I was home alone as a child and shot an intruder who barged into my house. Decades later, staring at my frightened younger self pointing a gun at me after I walked into my home, I clutched my wound and fled, fully understanding why. She watched her twin sister's eyes close for the last time, the cancer finally winning. Knowing she was next, she wondered what their lives would have been like if they had been born separately. Your pottery is so beautiful, but I wonder, how do you get that lovely shade of red? Oh, it's just a little something I put in the Kindle during firing. The kid got scared when the teacher told him the cops were waiting outside to take him, and he got even more scared when the cops told him that the military was waiting at the station to take him. As he was escorted to the military vehicle, one personnel asked, "Hey kid, do you know why the aliens are waiting near the first contact site to take you?" I see my daughter's number come up on my phone as I pick it up. I'm confused by the pause after saying hello. A man's voice says, "Sir, I'm sorry to reach out this way, but we found this number under the contact dad." Watching his wife dangle their squealing newborn over the sink, he immediately called 911 as she fed one of its kicking legs into the garbage disposal. When the police knocked and the garbage disposal gurgled blood, he announced, "When I click my fingers, you will be fully wide awake." Hearing a strange noise downstairs, the pet owner brought her pet down on a leash for protection, but got instantly attacked at the bottom of the stairs. As she was handcuffed, another policeman gently picked up her 3-year-old son, who she'd been forcing to live as her pet dog for weeks. Following my untimely demise, the hospital called my daughter to let her know that they had successfully followed the instructions given by my DNR tattoo on my chest. You've reached the voicemail box of Diane Nicole Rivers. Leave a message and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Humans are biologically hardwired to find babies and infants cute, instinctively encouraging us to protect and care for them. So why do I, with my newborn child in my arms, feel such an uncanny sense of dread looking at it? My best friend always said he'd just have to be faster than me if a bear chased us. I didn't think he actually meant it when he ran past me. I'm a sentient teddy bear in a trash bag at a landfill, waiting to be freed from the darkness and stench. I hope it will be soon because the maggots have started to feast on my owner's dismembered hands that are still clutching onto me. My daughter ate some of her watercolors while my son was watching her. He didn't realize the paints were non-toxic, but he found something that might make the paint thinner in her stomach. Like Harmony of Oceans before it, the cruise ship Endless Seas silently docked at the popular port 4 days ahead of schedule, fully functional with all lifeboats accounted for, but completely devoid of all passengers and crew. As the lifelight of the sea was sighted not long after, and in the exact same condition of the 2 ships before it, the decision was made to ground all ships immediately, yet there was no responses from most of them. For months, I have tried to explain to everyone in the mental hospital that I'm not this garbage producing madman they all take me for. Unfortunately, none of them know Hungarian. And with that, our time together is coming to an end. I hope you enjoyed all these stories. And thank you to every single writer who let me read their stories as well. If you enjoyed these stories, hit that like button and make sure it feels it. If you're new, please subscribe and turn that pretty little bell to all notifications. Please hype this video if you can, and leave me a comment. Tell me what you thought, maybe even your own little short story in the comment as well. If you're listening on the podcast and are able to, please leave a review and a comment as well. If you're willing to help this channel and podcast grow, please share it with anyone who might enjoy it. And if you're willing to help in a more financial way, I do have Patreon, and I have memberships over on my main channel, 242 Reads. You'll get early access and a few other bonuses with that. But as always, guys, thank you for watching and listening. It always has and always will mean the world to me. Sleep tight and don't let 42 bite.